I've felt like house prices cost too much and interest rates are too high. I wouldn't buy a house. It feels like a burden to buy a house right now. But when I started figuring out a little more,
but let's go deeper.
I started thinking maybe that's not true, and maybe
Correct.
it's actually not as bad as it feels, just because it's in comparison to what it was recently at 3%.
Sure.
So let's start with like way back. Let's
go
so
back
it feels.
to this. When you bought your house.
Well, let me go all the way back like 200 years. Let's start
back
there.
in the day. Okay.
Before you and I were born.
Okay. I am kind of old, Brian.
People didn't even have houses for the most part. It was like they lived in communal situations with, and then when our country started and throughout the world, when people started to kind of come together in cities, you lived in flats or apartments or tenant houses. And before that, it was like the Lord's deal where, what did I say, Lords? Like the Lords of like England, where you didn't even own the land.
Oh, I thought you meant the Lord, like in
what do you call that? They were called.
He was the Lord of the land.
Yeah, and you sort of like live there as a tenant.
He was the Baron, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And even today, they still have it. They're on 100-year leases on the land or whatever. So in any case, like today, we have this. If people from 200 years ago saw us, they would think we're like rich, all of us. You know what I mean?
I think we are.
I mean, we are.
But where we are versus other
But everything's
countries.
always comparing yourself to everybody else that's very close to you. Like I look at you, you look at me. Like we make those comparisons.
Correct.
So let's talk about affordability of a house, even in this 7.8% interest rate, very high housing prices, which don't seem to be coming down. It feels terrible. How terrible is it? Like, what is reality?
Reality is, if you can find a house right now that fits your financial and family needs, you should buy it.
Well, let's use that $151,000 a year income as a number. Now, what is? I hear different people say different things, and I think it's also different based on income. But what's a recommended amount of money that someone should use as a percentage of their annual or monthly income for a house?
Sure. It's all relative, of course, to their tax benefits, to their position where they're at. But realistically, if they're making $12,500 a month, which is what you've just equated it to me, and quite frankly, with today's marketplace, they're saying 50% of your income, $6,250, should be applied to house and debt. But then you got to be relative based on that, because at 12.5, if you're a family of one, you're one single person. That money goes a long way, Brian, right? Versus if you're a family of six and you've got 4 kids to feed, right? I mean, let's just
you're saying 50% for housing
and debt.
I'm saying
house
mortgage. Like,
okay, so
I've heard 25%, I've heard 20%, I've heard 30%.
You won't find anything in your price range for that. I mean, honestly, my target for most clients is going to be 35%. 35. And I'm taking into consideration the substantial tax benefits, number one. Quite frankly, you and I both know majority of people don't have retirement.
All right, let's use the numbers then. 35%. So Tim's number's 35%. What is 35% of $12,500?
Oh, that's a piece of cake, Brian. So you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about $4,200.
$4,200 a month. PITI, which is
principal interest,
taxes, and insurance.
Right? So what's $4,200
gets you in today's market?
Probably about a $525,000 home.
All right, $525,000 home.
Sure.
What does that get you in today's market?
Well, let's say Charles County, 5 1/4. What's gonna find you? 4 bedrooms.
I'm gonna say 4-bedroom,
2.5 bath.
maybe 2,500 square feet above grade on a finished basement, in a pretty nice neighborhood.
Yep.
It's not what it used to be, obviously, but you can certainly buy a house with a yard and that will hold a family of 4 or 5
Probably
or 6.
A good school system in essence, right? I mean, when we think about you spending that kind of money. Now, I'm going to throw something to you, and I know this is totally off the wall. Now, you bought this house for 5 1/4, and your rate is 7 1/4%, 7%, whatever it is, right? A year and a half from now, rates drop into the mid-4s. What's going to happen to the price of that house?
According to, again, the theory is that
and they're calling right now and asking about that. So go ahead.
The house price will go down theoretically, but I don't necessarily agree with that.
So
because I think there's more factors.
I think it's just the opposite. I think house prices are going to go up because interest rates are going to come down. More people can afford that home, and in return, more people are going to be bidding on it. It's going to become a competitive bidding war. And I will bet you, dollar for dollar, that price of that house just went up 10%.
It's always supply and demand.
It is. And what's the supply right now?
Well, what's the thing that would fix the supply? people said if interest rates went down, then people would move, and then there'd be more houses for sale. That would hugely increase the supply. But those same people are then buying houses. I think the only thing that actually increases supply is building new houses, or like you and I said, once Generation X or Y or Z or one of them like retires and dies,
the baby boomers,
we have this huge influx of
Brian, we're not going
the
anywhere.
Population sort of flips upside
staying
down.
Right here.
So for at least the next 30 or 40 years.
Great payment. I'm not going anywhere. Here's the deal. I got a great rate, I got a great payment, and there is nowhere for me to go.